Hello everybody, welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus. Hope everybody is having a good evening or morning or whatever time it may be where you are, whatever part of the world you might be in. This video is the second part of breaking down what the afterlife is like based upon a very long article by Stafford Beatty on the White Crow Books website. So if you haven't seen the first video, you can go back about something like 6 or 7 videos prior to this one, and I have that video up, which is part 1. And in that video I covered points 1 through 10, and so this is what Stafford calls excuse me, the Nifty 50. So it's a compilation of various spirit-based sources of information about what it's like when we cross over, kind of synthesized into these 50 major points. And so really every single point on this list could itself be a whole video, could probably be a whole book or something like that. So there's a lot to unpack in this list. So this is still just kind of scratching the surface, but basically what I'm adding is my opinion based upon like my spirit communication experiences, my astral projection experiences, how I feel about these points, and also mentioning stuff that might be misinterpreted, might be kind of inaccurate as well, just based upon my opinion. This is just philosophy. That's all that this is. And, you know, it may resonate with you. It might not resonate with you. That's fine either way. And certainly some people are not going to be at a point of wanting to believe in each of these 50 points outlined in this article, and then that's cool too. Before we dive into this, you are watching Afterlife Topics, so we talk about consciousness and life after death and spirit and spirituality / spiritualism, the study of what deceased people say to us when after they've kicked the bucket, so to speak. And if you like these subjects, I encourage you to please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell next to it to help stay abreast when I post new videos, and that really helps me keep this going, so I hope you consider doing that. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and dive into it. So in the last video we came up to point number 10, and so let's look at point number 11, try to get to point number 20, and let's see what Stafford has to say. So, the afterworld is composed of astral or etheric matter, which is largely malleable by thought, as one spirit puts it. Another spirit stated that it could be manipulated with infinite ease. Benson, who I believe that's Monsieur Hugh Benson, the alleged spirit communicator, describes the complex but swift erection of a building out of astral matter by master masons, but nowhere were there to be seen the usual materials and paraphernalia associated with earthly builders, the scaffolding and bricks and cement and various other familiar objects that we're used to. This is an act of creation entirely by thought. Okay, so my thoughts. I mean, absolutely, this is just kind of like 101. What we're talking about with the afterlife subject is other dimensions of existence. And in those dimensions, there's basically this, I don't know, I guess you could almost say it's the real world, you know? So this world is kind of like an interpretation of the way physics normally operates, and the way physics normally operates is that it's subservient to people's thoughts. So here in this world, we're chained to the physics, to Newtonian physics, to an extent, not completely, not as much as mainstream materialist physics would have you believe, but we are chained to these rules, and that's what is defined as a physical existence, or a highly dense existence. And when we cross over, the general consensus is that while the world can kind of look and feel like this world, it's a little bit more like, to give an example, I don't know if anybody here plays kiddish computer games, but there's a game called like Minecraft. I've never played it, but the basic idea is that you're using these little voxels, these little things that you can shape and build off of to create the world around you, that you do with other people who are playing. And a lot of people have a lot of fun playing that game. They build castles and they do all types of things like that. And that's probably closer by comparison to what these other worlds are like, that you can build and shape things, but yet you still have to have training and skill to do it. So masons are still required, or else what you're building is going to end up not making any sense. It'll just be an eyesore. And who wants to have a big astral eyesore being made? So it's kind of like, it's not as cut and dry as we think. I think that, you know, if we want to build like a mechanical object, then I think we have to understand how that mechanical object functions. Again, I can go into a whole video about this, and I'm trying to get through all these. I don't even know if I'm going to get through 10. Let's go to point number 12. The old or decrepit or injured bodies left behind at passing do not have to follow spirits into the next world. Kind of a strange opening sentence. Do not have to follow spirits. I think whatever excerpt this is, what the writer means to say is doesn't have to follow you into the next world. So you as a spirit person, these things won't continue. The physical leg that was shortened by polio can be instantly restored to normal size. Damaged brain no longer need cage the spirit. A wrinkled old body can be young again in its astral vigor. The healers and physicians on the astral plane, says the spirit of A.D. Madison, concentrate their treatment on making persons realize that their illness is only in their minds, that the mind is influencing the astral body, producing the simulated illness. As we saw above, the mind has full control. There's a lot that we can look at in between the lines with this point. One of them is the idea that and this is very, very, very consistent with my experiences, and it's very consistent with things I've heard spirit people speak about, you know, in so many sources. So it's kind of like they're saying that diseases and these issues still exist when we cross over, but it's in the mind. So the mind, which can, I mean, if the mind can create a building, the mind can create pathogens. If the mind can create a full replica of the body here, the mind can create pathogens and poisons and things in that body. So there's definitely an existence of disease on that side. And so the physicians on that side, their main goal is to get people to realize that those illnesses are in their own minds. And the reason some people don't get that, I think, is because they, for one thing, they don't know how that world operates by comparison to this world. And sometimes, you know, people don't even realize that they've died. They think that something's changed. They don't know what it is, but they're just clinging to the template of their old body. And this is really hazardous, because now once you've crossed over, who wants to still have diabetes? Who wants to still have some kind of a hard physical dysfunction? And that can happen to the people who aren't tuned into this information. So people watching this channel, don't think that's going to be a problem. But maybe your next door neighbor is going to have more difficulty with this. And I think that's something we all have to be so aware of. I'll do videos about that subject. I'll elaborate upon it in the future. Point 13. Spirits greatly respect time spent on Earth. One says your world is the hardest school of your round of experiences. Prizes won here are won for eternity. The very density of the material in which you work makes the overcoming of it a finer conquest. Experience on your planet is a unique opportunity and a privilege. Make the best of every opportunity. If strenuous life on Earth is of immense value. I mean, I definitely agree with this. You know, we go into the philosophical side and the kind of existential side all the time. What is our purpose here? Kind of a cliche to ask those questions at this point, but it's something, you know, comes up a lot. And the purpose, I think, is to, you know, get through this level of challenge, and, you know, whatever the end goal is going to be uniquely your own. But we have to remember, we have to try to remember that that's the context. So it seems like this is the only world that exists, and it seems like, you know, this is all there is, and the universe really is this difficult and cruel and difficult and overbearing on our souls. But on that soul level, I think we know that that's not true. And this is just to me, I think this is a big source of depression. You know, like with depressed feelings, and I know a little bit about that too. I think it gets exasperated so much more with this belief that this material existence is this particular dimension is all that exists, because I think a lot of times depression is caused by there being this kind of this discrepancy between like what we feel in our souls and what we're experiencing and seeing around us. And on a soul level, like we know that this is a big, really difficult school. We know this isn't all there is. We know there's other planes and other realms. But then we're trying to force fit our minds around this society's paradigm that this is all there is, and then that makes our souls experience this just incredible feeling of dysphoria, or don't know what the correct word would be, but it's a conflict of like the way reality is supposed to be. So it's this how do you say, there's just this it's an opposition to, you know, to what we know is really going on. I think this creates like a level of anxiety or existential crisis, and some of us don't even know how or why. And so we have to remember this point number 13. I think those of us who study these subjects, so that we don't become depressed, so we don't forget that, you know, the school isn't existence itself, or rather it isn't the only existence. And there is this, I mean, this is just a tiny part of our existences, and we really need to push that point home. I think it's so important for our mental health. Point 14. The Creator places souls in the difficult environment of Earth because it loves them. He, using the male pronoun for some reason, I would say it. It wants to see them grow in wisdom, love, and power. It knows that the only way to bring out the best in a soul is to challenge it in the same way that a good teacher challenges her students. Ultimately, the Creator wants us to become as much like itself as possible, to grow into near divine-like stature. Soul building or character development is the whole point of our sojourn, both on earth and beyond. Say the spirits. The use we make of our free will is absolutely crucial to all progress at all. So anyway, this is a lot of wordage here to cite. So what do I think of point 14? So this is philosophy, you know, and when we talk about the Creator placing souls in the difficult environment of Earth, is that accurate? I don't know if that is accurate, because is it a Creator? Is it, quote, God? Or is this a spirit communication that's coming from somebody who is theologically minded? Because on that side, there's churches, and then there's, you know, Christians, Muslims, Jews, and whatnot. So we don't know if that's an objective view, or just, you know, more like a philosophical or a faith-based system, that it's God placing us into this planet. So I'm not so sure. Sometimes I think it is we ourselves who decide to incarnate here. And whatever we were before we were born, it might be like a very primitive version of what we are now. we might have just been like a little fairy light, in some ocean of consciousness, that the little fairy light decided it wanted to become its, really individualized entity that, creates its own experiences. And so the little fairy light, whatever it is, finds the vibrationally equivalent family and body, and then, pops into it, animates a animates a human body growing in a womb, and boom, here you are. I think others might be much older souls, maybe been reincarnated many times or whatnot, but I think it's kind of like very much a philosophical territory to say that it's God placing us in the bodies. So I don't know how I feel about that, if I agree with it. But I do agree that soul building or character development is the point of our life here, because I really agree with that, because that is a big part, I think, of existence. That's why I disagree with the whole like merge back with consciousness and disappear and relinquish our individuality and become a blank slate, become an emotionless robot, because all that goes against the kind of divine individualized purpose, which is character development. Why did we keep hearing that terminology used again and again from spiritual teachings? Because that's what it's all about. That's what we're doing is that we're developing and expanding and growing so that we can become these much greater versions of ourselves. And it's why we feel in our hearts that when we're aligned with like a positive philosophy or something that's helping us, not to be cliche, because I don't know if this guy's not the greatest writer in the world. He's definitely over exalted. But like, for example, let's say Tony Robbins. What's going to be more inspiring? Reading about Tony Robbins, who's trying to motivate you to become a better version of yourself and to accomplish your dreams and accomplish your mission in life, and be of positive influence to everybody else, and make the most of your existence and expand, become greater, or compared to, I don't know, like nihilist philosophy or depressing song lyrics or whatever. You get the point. When we know in our hearts when we are aligning to these subjects of character development, advancement, and growth, and when we're backpedaling, and that the backpedaling is seductive because it comes with like a sense of self-pity, and it's easy to fall into a kind of a depressing spiral. But we know the philosophies that kind of our soul desires, and it is going to be the positive, feel good, like grow, expand, accomplish your dreams, self-helpy kind of stuff. Even if you feel cynical about work like that, for most of us, that is what we're after. And I think that relates a lot to this point. Okay, I don't know if I want to go through all of the 10, because these are all such big topics to talk about. I think this article is going to take such a long time to get through. So let's just do like a couple more points. 15, 16. Point 15. No one... Wait, did I skip? Nope. Okay, point 15. No one is saved by faith in Jesus as Lord and Savior, as Protestant Christianity teaches, and deathbed conversations have no impact on the quality of life in the world to come. No one is damned because he believes in the Trinity in spite of Islam's warning. Character alone counts, not beliefs. Good atheists are not disadvantaged. Correct beliefs are helpful insofar as they encourage good lives, and they often do, but they are not what determines one's place in the afterlife. Yeah, I mean, this is actually just Objective Spirituality 101. I almost don't even have anything to say about this. This is just, anyone who separates from dogma and orthodoxy will come to believe. So it's, obviously old religious traditions are not of any more relevance than whatever value we assign to it for our own lives or belief systems, but it's not going to objectively affect anything. You know, what matters are cosmic concepts, cosmic laws of reciprocity, free will, things like that. So let's move to 16. Point 16 of the Nifty 50. Madison's trip to other inhabited planets reveals a divine plan very much so I don't know what this is an excerpt. I don't know who Madison is. So this article does seem to just kind of have copy and paste jobs of different books and sources. So I don't know what source this is. So somebody named Madison trip to other inhabited planets revealed a divine plan very much like the one just sketched. He said, "There are social bonds among the peoples we contacted just as there are on Earth. There is also evidence of some moral struggle and involvement among these inhabitants. I am not entirely confident that Madison in reality took such a trip, but if he did, if the trip wasn't the product of mediumistic contamination, which is always a possibility." By the way, that's a big topic right there. Sometimes spirit sources are the sources of imagination coming from mediums, and we always have to be discerning about that. Then what he found is what I would expect. A divine plan, I should think, would be consistent throughout the universe. Okay, so let me just back up here. So what is this excerpt going on about? Do extraterrestrial lives have similar, purposes as our lives? Yeah, I mean, look, it's the concept of incarnation. You can go into kind of Hindu texts about this, yogic texts, autobiography of a yogi puts it well, and when it explains that incarnations in this world can extend all across the cosmos and into incarnations in the astral world. So when we have a life and a body on the astral world, that's also an incarnation. And in all incarnations, it's individual souls exploring their individuality and growing, expanding, just like the stuff we just talked about a couple points back. And this would be consistent throughout the universe. So it's the same concept and an infinite different ways of expressing it. So there could be, billions of civilizations in this universe, and each civilization has billions and billions of people. So we're looking at big numbers of billions times billions of individual souls all around the cosmos, and every single one is its own story, just like you and me, our own unique stories, our own unique little song that takes up its own equally significant part of the divine. And we're all growing, expanding, and on our own unique journeys. So it doesn't matter if it's humans or ETs. We're all part of the same thing. So even that scary, bug-eyed, gray alien, the kind of thing I hate, even that scary-ass, bug-eyed, gray alien of dubious moral integrity. Sorry, guys, some of the Zetas, they really do seem to be a bit self-serving. But even those guys, divine consciousness coming from the same source, just like you and me. So if you ever see an alien, you can keep that in mind. Maybe it'll soften the blow. Okay, let's do 17. The afterworld is a broad-based society of every conceivable kind of person, most of them flawed and incomplete in some way or another. Many are no more motivated to grow their souls than they were back on Earth. According to Hatch, most are content to assimilate the experiences they had on Earth. Most souls do not demand enough here, any more than they did in life. But many are determined to advance. I think this is an excellent point. It's a great one to kind of end this video on. Because the afterworld is a broad-based society of every conceivable kind of person. Well, guess what? That's just like here. And if you begin talking or having experiences on that side, whether it's just memories of experiences or full-blown like lucid astral experiences or prolonged near-death experiences, I mean, you quickly come to the conclusion, hey, there's cities and coffee shops, people walking around leading lives, and it's just like here. And people have their own problems. It's just the problems are a little bit different in here because we don't have that pressing need to survive and sustain ourselves. but it's like the nature of existence is imperfection. And since we're all imperfect, we're all trying to get closer to some kind of a more exalted state, higher unity consciousness, whatever you want to call it, greater camaraderie between us, greater abilities to express ourselves and to whatever the case might be. I mean, the big point is that it's such a broad-based society, and with so many conflicting like personalities, emotions, ideas, that it's just it's so unbelievably just diverse. And that's why there's conflict on that side. Just like here, just imagine there's endless amounts of people with their own motivations and thoughts and opinions. And, you know, we don't have, I mean, there's not the same kind of like hard physical rules that make a place dangerous where, you know, you're going to get knifed by somebody who doesn't like you. But it's still extremely diverse and broad, and so many different souls growing on very, very, very different paths, doing, you know, having with different motivations and desires. And at the end of the day, that's what makes existence interesting. You know, if you're really misanthropic, you want to live in a cabin in the woods and just stay away from everybody, that's available to us also. But I'm not convinced that that's a good way for us to, you know, learn to love and tolerate and be compassionate. We need to be around other people as well. Here on the earth plane, we have the best opportunities to do that. But there's just as many, well, not just as many, but there's many of its own kind of opportunities on the astral side as well, where we continue to grow and experience things. And, you know, with new benefits like not aging and not having disease and being able to fully express ourselves and have that fantasy business we always wanted to have, or to, you know, go traveling, exploring ancient astral cultures. You know, man, that must be endlessly interesting and exciting. With all those new opportunities, I think comes kind of like new responsibilities, new personal responsibilities, and new challenges. So it's almost like in this life we're so preoccupied with like getting by on a day-to-day basis and surviving and making money, that we don't have the opportunity to think about our own lives and what we're accomplishing. And we don't, you know, sometimes I think it's scary for us to think about being alone with our thoughts and alone with the things that we want to do, and becoming responsible for our own thoughts and responsible for our manifesting our desires. And on that side, when we don't have the 9-to-5 work schedule, I mean, I think some people there do, but when that becomes really optional and we have the ability to spend a lot of time almost like alone to our thoughts, you know, then with that comes new levels of responsibility, especially when it comes to self-love and being able to forgive ourselves and live with ourselves, which is a big part of our growth as souls, I think. And if we don't like ourselves, then I think we come to face with that very quickly on that side. And you know, there's a few more tangents I could get into. I noticed that, like, in this world, people I've met who are very wealthy, who haven't had, you know, like, they come from wealthy families, they don't have to work, they tend to have many more like existential problems, because instead of thinking about from a day-to-day basis about like surviving and working and doing things that normal people have to think about, they have all this free time to think about themselves and their meaning in life and things like that. And sometimes it doesn't work out so well. I mean, I've known many rich kids who end up like in a very depressed states of mind because they have all that extra time to think about themselves and who they are and their place in the universe. And these are tough things to think about. So those are my thoughts about that, man. So I got through, I'm up to 17 out of 50. So future videos, I'll get into the rest of this. So these are all big points. Again, every single point here I could make a whole video about. I probably will at some point. But that's just, you know, what I can get through for now in this epic article at White Crow Books. I'll put the link up in the channel, in the video description. If you like this, please head to afterlifetopics.com, grab a copy of my book like Understanding Life After Death or The Afterlife and Beyond, the new book that came out last year. That, you know, really helps out this channel. Or you can become a patron, patreon.com/afterlifetopics. You can join our classes, meet people who are like-minded, who want to discuss these subjects. That's for $30 a month and up. Patrons helps keep food on the table while I live out of a backpack. If you're new around here, I travel, live out of a backpack. Right now I'm in India, and who knows where I'll be in a couple months, but mostly I focus a lot on this kind of work, and hopefully I'm of service to others, and that's kind of what I do. So, but you can support that at the Patreon. So any help in that area is appreciated. And I guess that's it. Yep, I'll see you guys on next video, hope probably in a day or two, and that's it. This is Cyrus, AfterlifeTopics.com. I'll catch you guys next time.